First Smoke family, we're about to get in some hash smoking, some hash making. We're about to sit down with an OG in this game right here. Marcus from Nature's Lab Extracts. OG in the Prop 215 days. We get into his journey. It's a wild one. This is what it's about. Also, if you guys are growers or you need grow equipment, growgeneration.com, 60 plus stores nationwide, and also growgeneration.com. Listen, if you want to get a discount code and you want priority, First Smoke 10. That's the link. It's on our website, fsotd.com, along with the code for Drip Hydro. If you're a grower and you want to up your game, you want to try a new nutrient company, or you're in a new facility somewhere, or in LA, obviously, and you want to try a brand new nutrient company, Drip Hydro, go on fsotd.com. Get the code. It's a code that gets you priority. It might even get you hooked up with a bunch of free nutrients. drdabber.com. Dr. Dabber. One of the things we smoke a bunch of this hash out of on the podcast we're about to sit down to. Hit them up. Use the code. It's on our website as well. Hit that up and get a discount on all Dr. Dabber products. Hit the like, hit the subscribe, show us some love. We're about to get into some hash smoking.
One of the award-winning extract companies out there, my man Marcus of Nature's Lab.
One of the extract artists that from 215 all the way to now, we've seen the brand just exponentially grow.
So like found out like through the grapevine that it was made with isopropylene, like 99.99%, you know. You start with like floor trim and floor weed, and then all of a sudden, you know, you're run it through CR and make it look beautiful. It's like, it was still trash.
And they're dabbing it. And I remember asking all the people around me, what is that? Man, as you already know, like Pac would say, and we're back. First Smoke of the Day, episode 97 with an OG in the game, Marcus from Nature's Lab. One of the extract artists that from 215 all the way to now, we've seen the brand just exponentially grow. Now it's states to state. This is an exciting podcast for me because we rarely get to sit down with hash makers that come from the solvent side and do a lot of solventless work too. So you have like your legacy of both. It's not just, oh, I started doing it when rosin was big. Yeah. Or I started doing it and then I got out of it. And like your history starts with like the essence of the plant all the way to the extraction on all levels.
For sure. Yeah.
Really
been doing
cool.
it for a while.
Welcome to First Smoke, bro.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
We've seen you on Be Real TV.
Yeah. I
see you on the smoke box.
For sure.
That's one of my favorite episodes. There's like 3 or 4 that I'll roll through, and like yours is a great one, bro. Like,
I had no idea what to do with my hands. I think I was just like sitting there smoking a joint, trying to keep up with B the whole time.
He's great.
He can put them down. He can
in like a tight environment, fogged out. And he's just
my eyes
like,
were burning.
Yeah, he got used to that somehow. He's like, but I want to start off with a question, and I want to start off with a fat dab.
I like that.
What do you think happened to the BHO market? Because if I take the same 6-star product today and I have it extracted with solvent, right? Yeah. Even a high-end solvent, a quality solvent that's been purified and run, I still won't get the price or the demand that I do with a solventless extraction. Like, what do you think? Is it just because one is solvent and solventless, or is it because one put a really good marketing campaign together? Or?
I mean, I definitely think Solventless had that like marketing campaign the same way people tried to, I'm going to get all my food from Whole Foods because it's organic and better. But I mean, the reality, it was just that CRC.
Yeah,
in my opinion, that CRC just killed it. Like you had those like brands that were like, no, you should clean it. You know, like I clean, you know, your water's filtered 8 times, and it's like, yeah, cool. I think the source is really what matters though. It's like, you know, water's purified 8 times. Cool. I can pee in a cup. You can run it through your filter. You watch someone pee in that cup. Do you really want to drink that water? Like, no, it's like BHO is no different. You start with like floor trim and floor weed, and then all of a sudden, you know, you're running through CR and make it look beautiful. It's like, it was still trash, you know?
Yeah, the sweep
up. Now people, like, how often do you even hear live resin? Everything's just BHO. It's like that CRC just killed like the distinguishing factor of live, because everything looks live now, even though it's, you know, not. You know?
If everything looks like a Ferrari.
Yeah. I mean, before,
who's going to buy a $300,000 Ferrari?
Yeah. Like when I ran trim back in the day, like when I ran your trim looked like live resin, but we label it trim because it's trim. Like there's just no trust in the industry on that side anymore. Like BHO is just BHO, has no like pull of where it's from. Like even like when you're labeling it, we've ran a couple runs where like we've put trim run on there and the clients would get mad. It's like, yo, dude, like we have to put trim run on there. It's honest. Like you can't just call it like premium. It's like, what do you mean premium? Like, what's that mean? What part of the plant is premium?
It's the stems. That's the premium part.
It's the stems, the premium stems though.
Yeah,
they're not none of these low grade stems.
Which is crazy though, because you look at some people's trim and it's like, yo, this is better than 90% of the nugs out there.
Yeah.
Like when it's clipped and it's the full leaf and it hasn't even been broken down into little pieces yet. It's like the full wraparound leaf that's just been clipped at the stem. And I remember looking through some people's trim and I'm like, dude, I would smoke this. It's just so nice. Like this is just frosted out. Like, yeah, it's crazy how it went sideways so fast where we were getting diamonds. We were getting also just great sauces and that were tested and had zero carcinogens, right? And had all the stuff removed. We got into the ovens. They figured out, or you guys figured out how to basically purify a solvent substance out of
degassing and like pulling it out. I mean, getting rid of it under some kind of circumstance.
And then CRC and distillate pens come in, and then that wave of like bad publicity and people trying to turn scraps into premium.
It was the distillate tech, the same tech they're using for filtration on that to do color remediation. They just, I don't know which extractor was the one who coined it. And honestly, I would hate to be the guy who coined that, because I feel like now it's like, cool, you ruined an entire industry. Like BHO industry just, single-handedly got ruined because CRC spread like wildfire. And, now you got a bunch of trash out in the market.
It is crazy.
Yeah.
Like to think about, because like I was one of the ones that I was loving smoking like premium flavors. And what changed too, and like what was the craziest change was every grower had like these 6 or 8 or 12 strains or this one special strain that they've been holding on to. And the flower was so good that then you could extract it and you would have, every grower would have some different version. Like, oh, this is my purple Urkel pheno. This is my, papaya times this pheno. When solventless, and I'm not a solventless hater. It killed a lot of the growers wanting to grow unique strains because you either now grow for flower or you grow for hash. It wasn't both, where with butane or solvent extraction, you could do both.
Yeah. And the yield went way down. Like you're talking OG Kush on the rosin side yields trash versus OG Kush on the flower side to BHO was great. It just, you got rid of that though. On like, it's like you're seeing 1%ers, 2%ers at best on rosin versus like back in BHO, it's like we're getting 6, we're getting 7 on live. So it's like, it's a hard one to bite on that one too. Cause it's just like, why am I getting less hash? And, and on top of it, it's like, I still like the BHO stuff that was fire when it was from fire,
I think it's like 2 options, right? It's like people always want to go to like, it's this or that.
Yeah.
It's Republican or Democrat, or it's like this or that. It's like, no, it could be both or neither.
Yeah. It could definitely be neither. It could always be neither. Nah, none of that or that.
Yeah. Let's get into this dab, man.
For sure.
So I loaded up something that smells so unique. I haven't smelled something like this in a while. Burning Rope Sour Diesel.
Yep. Burning Rope Sour Diesel. We just ran this stuff. So this is the full spec side. This isn't like the 90 and 70 that we usually just run for everyone else. This is like the 150, the 120, and the 45 or 43.
If you showed me that and had me smell that, I would have said that's isolated 73U or 90, whatever the bag is, that's in that range that you use from whatever brand isolator. So let's light this up, man.
For sure.
Yeah. Dr. Dabber, big shout out to Burning Rope. Big shout out to Nature's Lab for the collab. And then now Dr. Dabber to send it home. But yeah.
Yeah. Burning Ropes grows some great shit.
He does, doesn't he? His Go Global drops sell out. I mean, great grower, goes way back again, Prop 215 days, just like all of us.
Yeah.
Bro, to get into that, I mean, obviously as we're taking dabs, but your story goes back way before rec, way before, it gets into, like you said, starting growing. Yeah, if you don't know, we're dabbing. Marcus likes it. What do you got? Green? Okay.
I might have to turn it up a little bit. Yep.
That sour is sour.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, it's gas and sour. That's the two things that I like when I go. And then these are really nice too, because I do a second dab. I'm a weirdo like that. I know some
I'm
people
doing a
are
second
only
dab
one,
just
but-
because that one was so low. I'm
Yeah.
like, might as well.
Yeah,
Might as well.
Exactly. How did your journey with cannabis begin? Where'd you grow up?
Arkansas originally. So
Arkansas.
super illegal at first.
Yeah. I mean, even now today, I think, right?
It's medical, but
It is.
still, I go visit my buddy's shop out there to say hi to him. He's got a spot in Northwest Arkansas called The Source. And every time I'm walking through the street, like trying to roll a joint, he's like, put that down, man. Like, what are you trying to do? Get arrested? It's like, oh yeah, not in California.
Yeah. I'm sure with your journey too, man, that's gassy. I'm sure with your journey, you get so used to just smoking and that,
Oh, yeah.
and you're traveling to all these states that are just coming online. They're not used to that. They're like, you're
No.
going to smoke a joint right here?
Yeah.
You're like, yeah. Oh, you're going to dab right here? You're like, yeah, I'm about to dab right now.
Yeah. The glass, like little glass portable comes right out of the backpack and they're like, what are you doing? It's like 5 seconds after the plane,
Yeah.
It's like, that was a 6-hour plane flight. What do you think I'm doing, man?
Bro, one of the things that saved me was rosin pens.
Yeah.
Like the live resin pens are really not around anymore.
No.
So my go-to is the rosin pens, and like being able to get off a flight and then that hour commute between the flight to wherever you're going to like get to rosin pen all day.
Oh yeah.
That's like the first thing I think about when I travel is like, do I got a rosin pen? Because I'm like, man, if I get to that airport, it's a 2-hour layover or 3-hour this or the taxi. And now it's like, oh, it's an hour and a half to get to Barcelona from the fucking airport.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, what? Grab me that rosin pen.
Before I get in that taxi, I'm hitting that thing pretty hard.
Yeah. What's your journey? So it starts in Arkansas.
Yeah.
What is that like?
So started in Arkansas. I mean, I was just the kid getting Barnes and Noble books about weed at first, just curious and getting free Barnes and Noble cards from aunts and uncles. And I don't read anything, I'm not a reader. So, I would just buy weed books and kind of read on that. Started selling weed in dime bags and shit like that when I was younger and middlemaning and doing that same thing everybody else did. It wasn't until I got to college really that I started like really messing around with hash. And it's just, my schooling was for mechanical engineering. So we had like lab access like all the time. I remember like going to Arizona and our lab director was basically like, yep, I'm out the door at like 7, like place shuts down at like 10 or something like that. And it's like, cool. So that's like 3 hours, huh? I can clean up after myself, So I just hit the lab and started playing with isopropylene hash and water hash and just making it out of whatever we had in the lab,
Which isopropylene, that would be similar to like an RSO?
Yeah, kind of. There was this product when I first started coming out to Cali called Gold Dust. And it was like this weird hash that was like gold powdery. They sold it at like on the Sunset Boulevard at some of the shops down there. But as soon as you touch it, it would just melt into like a dark oil. And so like found out like through the grapevine that it was made with isopropylene, like 99.99%, which is something you shouldn't be smoking anyway. I mean, that shit causes Alzheimer's and shit. But like college level, like limited access to knowledge about cannabis, internet wasn't really cracking like it is now. People weren't sharing ideas that way. So like, I found this recipe from this dude in Canada and was making it in my apartment and then started making it in the lab and then just started making water hash. And then I moved out here because I was blowing glass at the time. And a buddy of mine was making butane hash at his place, had some crackhead neighbor behind him report him. And so my first experience making butane hash was I had picked up material to give to him. He got arrested. I told my friends and they're like, well, you're an engineer. Why don't you figure it out? And I think I quit making anything glass and quit engineering and all that stuff in about a week and a half after that because I made my first round and it was like, well, this is cool. Like I could, make a living doing this. That'd be cool. I didn't think it was going to be like a real living, but I figured it hit a brick wall in a couple years. We'd be good. I'd go back to college, but we would have gotten to make hash for a couple years. And then compliance kicked in and, like Prop 215, and we started rolling with that. And it was just like, kind of started picking up momentum, but that was all BHO days,
Yeah.
And once I started making BHO, it was like, who can I meet? How fast can I meet them? Who's got better weed? In the Valley, it was like everything's OG Kush. So we were loving just running a bunch of gas all day, It's good times.
Dude. That's a great pool to pull from too for extracts. I mean, a lot of good strains coming out of the valley early then.
Yo, family, if you want to know where to get all the dope exclusive merch you see us rocking on the show, go to shop.fsotd.com. It's free shipping on all domestic orders. We're trying to hook up the whole family. We want you guys to rock the merch and show us you're a part of the family. All the ashtrays are on there, the lighters are on there, the trays are on there, the Stonewash hoodie is on there. The Family Ties tee is sold out. You should have moved quicker. And also,
Yo, tag us in photos. Let us know you're rocking the merch, you're rolling up on the tray, you're watching firstsmokeoftheday.com. Let us know how you first smoke of the day. Hit us up on Instagram, first smoke of the day.
And no one really blasted or processed or did anything. So people weren't like tumbling their shit. Like you were getting like the best grades you could get. Like I remember running BHO back then, like trim run BHO, because everything was trim run. And I'd be getting like 90 grams a pull. You know, like something that would line up to like flower yields, you know what I mean? But it was just the quote unquote trim. It was just, you know, unadulterated, fire, different times, you know? And then everybody's cousin and brother started making hash. So then it was like, oh man, I see what you did trying to get all my free material, you know, before they were trying to pay you to get rid of it. Please take it.
Some of the first material, because I always, when I learned how to make hash, I knew it was gold.
Yeah.
I knew it was gold. I was like, wow, this is gold. This is even back in the day before we realized that you could extract with butane, because I don't come from that background. We would tumble it.
Yeah.
And then take all that and press it into pucks or heat it up
puck
and try to work it. And it's just crazy how it evolved. And it's funny to look back and be like, we didn't really have any scientists step in early and be like, no, you should do this. And then it's almost like the weed industry just figured it out.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to do this, and then we're going to, vac ovens? Yeah, and they use that in what industry? Okay. It's like all these pieces start coming into play, and then now we get more science. Guys from engineering backgrounds like you know.
I never even used it until someone suggested it. It's like I wasn't using a vac oven until someone like accused me of using a vac oven, because like our stuff was coming out so honeycomb and so dry. They were like, oh, well, because he uses a vacuum oven, and it's like, a what? I never thought of that. That's a pretty good idea. And then bought a vacuum oven.
What brand did you say? Yeah.
Yeah, I remember buying that first 0.9 cubic foot across International. That little oven, I think, where do we have that thing now? Oh shit, actually it's at my lab in Cali still. That thing's probably won like 10 High Times cannabis cups. It's like $1,000, you know, like the one that was like the cheapest one we could get. Did barely worked, you know, it was like one of their 2011 models or something like that. Super old.
It's cool too, because it went into ovens. I remember the first couple guys ended up having this like glass dome. It looked like you'd put a cake or something underneath it,
like
or some
decusant
fruit
chamber.
Yeah, and they'd be doing that, and dude was doing it in his bedroom and running it out the window, and I'm like, this is fucking crazy. Like, yeah. But the stuff that was coming out, you were like, this is phenomenal.
Yeah, like especially considering everything was like bubble hash, and people weren't that great at making bubble hash, because most of the time people would air dry it, and it just got that titch of mold to it where you're like, yeah, that's kind of mildewy smelling, you know?
That's funny.
Like I put it on a piece of cardboard. I don't understand what happened.
No, that's the OG smell, man. Yeah. It's not
that's
mold.
earthy.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the earthy term.
Yeah. It's not cardboard, it's earth.
Dude. And so with that first product and material you were running, do you remember any of the strains?
Yeah, the first thing I ran, and it's what was like oh my God, I think I nailed this, was Blue Dream. So like, you know, you barely had to whip it. You look at it funny and it turns white. So it was just like, everyone I gave it to was like, holy shit, like, how'd you make this? This looks so good. And honestly, the original whip like recipe that I had, like that's the same whip recipe I used from day one. I used all the way through everything. You know, like the timing and like, I didn't know what temperature ranges I was using until someone came over and asked and put a temperature like thermometer in there. And it was like, oh, cool. You know, like how warm is it? I'm like, it's good. You know, stick a couple fingers in there. That's all you need to know. You know,
it's crazy.
Warm enough. You know.
Yeah, looking back, it's funny. Yeah. Even the way we used to smoke hash is with the bell housing,
the swings,
or some type of freebasing type of equipment where it's like, oh yeah, you just heat it up and shove it on there red hot, and
it's got to be hot. Make sure it's red.
Yeah,
it's glowing.
But amongst our first original crew, we have some funny stories about dabbing each other out for the first time, and people like falling out, or like we used to joke like, I feel like I could taste blood, you know. But
red hot dabs. Who knows,
bro? So you're in the valley and you start to track down this passion.
Yeah.
Of the essence of cannabis, basically pulling the resin and the terpenes out of the cannabis into this hash form. Has it always been about the hash, or was it, I love flower, but this is something new? Or
Yeah, mine was, I love flower and I hate waiting 3 months or so to pull harvest. And, at first I had no intention of ever stop growing. It was like, especially now when you hear people talk about single source, it's like, but I never really intended on like growing any less. Just got to the point where like time management was like, well, if I'm growing weed, I'm going to hire a crew to grow my weed. So it's like, I might as well just shift my focus and go on the hash, just because it seemed like I had a good niche there. And like, I want to say like in the earlier days, there was a lot more unique flower out there. That wasn't just like the same like gene pool of flower. So it was like, it was different. And living in the Valley, you grew OG Kush.
yes,
If you lived in Orange County, you grew like sativas. If you were in NorCal, you had like the NorCal varieties. And if you're in San Diego, you bought from one of those 3 people. Like, and it just seemed like when I moved to Cali, that's just how it was. I had like a few friends in San Diego that grew, but they were super underground about it. Like I had a buddy this guy Jeremy, who grew in his basement with, do you remember the water cooled lights? Or like a hollow tube.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's what he had, a super low ceiling.
That was the epitome. If you were a grower, you're like, one day, bro.
Yeah. And he grew
Water-cooled
snow cap
lights.
and in a room that had like a 4-foot ceiling. You know what I mean? It was just like short plants in this like underground basement room. But like, those were my San Diego homies. Were like, that's how they were all growing. Just like super low key.
Snow cap too.
Yeah. Remember
That's a good
Snowcap?
one. Yeah. That's an old school.
It's an old school, oldie but a goodie.
San Diego has always been on their like track down growers and bust them shit.
Yeah. They were
More than other places in Cali that you hear about avidly, unless it's a small town that doesn't. But as far as big city, San Diego is always like, I always knew some good growers when we moved out here, even too, that were always trying to like keep their head low.
Yeah.
It was like, wow.
I mean, feds are right there. I get it. And back then it was like, it was a lot more gray. So I could see why everybody was a little more scared being down there. But yeah, they did seem like they were always having stings.
Yeah.
Like sting operations were just real.
Deliveries. They were cutting out. They used to come down on everything, man. And they had some good dispensaries. We used to love the dispensaries down in San Diego because they loved good weed. They would source shit from the top of Cali all the way down to the bottom.
Because it didn't seem like they grew, so they needed it.
Yeah.
It's like, but I mean, it was always a good spot to go to.
Cameraman, you got a lighter? Oh, dude. Marcus in the clutch, bro. Marcus in the clutch.
Got you.
Yeah, man. So you start to do this extracting and you're chasing down this knowledge. And how are you learning? Like when you go from, I'm doing it this way, because Instagram wasn't a thing then.
No.
And so how are you learning like, oh no, we need to do this now? Or, hey, let's try this. Is it you just trying to play with it and get a better color, better yield, better smoke, better, cleaner smoke? For
me, I got lucky on the first method I tried worked really well. So much so that I didn't really deviate from that way. And it was just working. It was working really well. And then eventually other people that like, cause I being from Arkansas, I didn't go out. Like, and that was back when Headroom Gallery was around.
Yeah.
Everybody went to Headroom Gallery. Like that's where all the hash makers went. I didn't go to Headroom Gallery cause I'm from Arkansas. I don't want to get busted. I'm thinking like, this is dumb. We're all gonna go in one location. They can just arrest all of us. Like I'll just stay out here, So I didn't really do all that. So I didn't really have a whole lot of that camaraderie of other extractors telling me, hey, I tried this or I tried that. Like this is what works. This is what doesn't work. I just kind of winged it. And that method worked. And it really wasn't until other people came in and were trying to tell me, why don't you try this? That I started seeing like, wow, that way sucks. This way, my way is working, like, and this way doesn't. And then seeing these like slight variances of, 5 degrees of temperature, whipping it an extra time, not whipping it an extra time, and seeing these huge differences of swing of how it looks and comes out. And so all it did was kind of just solidify, me kind of going back to the method that I went and trying to like scientifically track it. So it's like, all right, so it needs to be in this temperature range for this period of time. It needs to be in this temperature range for this period of time. And eventually like Nameless Genetics was the one who really pushed this one, was last minute on a high times. Like, hey, let me get an entry in. Like, all right, sure. I need they're like, how long do you need? It's like, oh, if you drop it off today, I'll have it ready for tomorrow, And they didn't drop it off that day. They dropped it off late that night. And it was something along the lines of I had about 4.5 hours to make the entry before they jumped on the plane to drop it off. So I did and made it and sat there and just sweat bullets the entire time until they submitted it and they got the lab test back for the, and it tested clean. And it was one of the only ones that tested clean. So I was like, oh, this is great. I can make a clean product in 4 hours. Except the problem is that somebody already knew that now. So now every entry that I'm getting from people, they're like, I heard that you can finish this in 4 hours.
It's like a Lucky Charm thing. You're like, and if I give it to you the day before, maybe the terps are higher. And you start to come up with all these excuses in your head why it has to be that way now.
Oh, no, they just came up with those reasons. I was like, this is terrible. Now everyone's going to give me 30 entries at the last day before the event. And that started to be what happened would be like, I get bombarded with all these like crazy entries, entries are due tomorrow, but you're good. You did it once, right? It's like, yeah, once with one strain, not once with 8 strains and maybe 4 more behind it.
You know what that reminds me of is like someone that like breaks a world record for like running, for like sprinting. And then it's like, if you don't beat that, you didn't run as fast. You know what I'm saying? It's like they expect you every time now.
Like now you got to keep up with that pace.
Oh, yeah. That's your pace. Your award-winning pace, the fastest in the world, that's your pace now. It's the same with quality. And at this time, is it hard to find quality product, or are you just bumping into growers and just mingling? Like, how are you getting quality resin, or are you?
I mean, at this point, it's getting lucky finding guys like you that have like that we had a relationship previously that now are like in the same boat as like we're all in the compliant realm, and it's like that really like having like all the good growers have that struggle of having to get compliant because they made it so difficult for it to happen for like a real grower.
Yeah.
That really was like the biggest struggle. Now starting to see people pop up a little bit here and there. It's gotten a little easier, but I still say it's not super easy because everyone's trying to source from those same guys. So it's just like, all right, if you do both get it, then it's like all of a sudden you have all these overlapping menus across the board from the few guys who are growing good cannabis.
Yeah. It's cool too, because you come from now the solventless side. So like most of what we have on the table. So like people that are listening that are only rosin guys, or people that are listening that are, oh, well, I used to like BHO, but solvent. It's cool to hear it from guys like you because you're watching the product be made. You're making the product. You're in there and you've done it so long. Like when I talk to the most knowledgeable extractors, and not just in one field, but just extractors in general, I always think of you, bro. You're at the top of my list with like, I wonder what he thinks about, like that's the question I ask myself a lot of times.
Yeah.
At that time when you start knocking awards down, because I had met you after you guys had already been award winning.
Okay.
Like you guys I think it was High Times 2015.
Yeah, that was our year.
That was when I met you.
Yeah, that was our year.
I walked up to the booth, bought some Spacewalker, and I was like, oh, this shit's like honeycomb. And like your cool logo with the beaker and like the collab, like everything about it was just dope. Like at the time too, like a lot of people weren't branded. And
a lot of people didn't do collabs.
None of it. Even just you, like I could see your product, like even now on the table, and I know, oh, that's Nature's Lab.
Yeah.
There's no question in my mind. Even just that color blue with the white, I associate that with you above anybody else now.
I've been at I've seen pictures from, there's a company called like Earth Research Labs back in the day who had that same logo, but inside of it said Earth Research Labs. And I had a couple of events where people would take a selfie in front of it and they're like, I'm at your booth, dead serious. And it's like, I'm like, look behind you. It says Earth Research Labs. I mean, that's close, Nature's Lab, Earth Research Lab, close, but not quite. But I mean, they just saw the motif of the logo and they were like, Nature's Lab.
Yeah.
It's like what popped in their head immediately. And they didn't even read the writing, It's like, lab. Cool. Yeah, that's it.
I could see that. And that gets more dangerous now that we get into legalization. But at that time, you guys start knocking awards down. What were some of the first awards you won? And like, what did you think when you started winning them?
The first one we won was like a Hemp Con. And then at the same time, my buddy Ross with the company was doing one in Arizona that was like the Secret Cup.
Yeah, I remember that.
We got like a best like overall or something like that. And
that was a big deal back then. I remember Farmer Joe. There was a bunch of people that would from all over Oregon, Washington, California, all the best extractors, and they would do like blind entries. And that was a big deal.
And the extractors themselves had to do all the judging on those ones. So it wasn't like a panel, it was like the people that were putting it in were the ones judging it blindly.
Which makes sense because who's seen more extracts than extractors?
Yeah. Right.
Who's seen the best they could possibly make? It's like you've seen the best you've made, and now you've also all your friends who are extractors, and then now you're able to judge. It's like, and so you start to hit awards. Do you remember what the first strain you ran and was award winning?
I think Ross went out there with Spacewalker, and then what I ran on that I had was I think it was the in-house private reserve OG that Daddy's Pipes had.
Oh yeah, Daddy's Pipes was the spot back then.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
That was,
they-
I mean, that's,
yeah.
I was the in-house guy basically back there. So like, that was like my first cool shop that I was affiliated with. You know, I just kind of sit in the back and gram up the hash that I made, and whatever cool growers came in that were like, they'd be like, hey, you want to do a collab? That's actually where I met Broken Promises brother.
Yo, so if you guys didn't know already, everybody's switching to drip. Terps are a really big deal in today's market, but most importantly, so is the flavor. So everybody's switching to drip and feeding their flavor. And if you want to switch to drip, reach out to us.
Family at firstsmokeoftheday.com. Let us know. I want to switch to Drip Hydro.
We're dripped out. We're right here, our favorite place to go. You know, where the pros go to grow, at Grow Generation. Over 60 stores nationwide, either in-store or online. Use our code.
First Smoke 10. Family, get online if you're shopping for grow goods, First Smoke 10, or in store anywhere in the US.
Tell them the First Smoke family sent you. We'll see you there. Yo, we got a gift from Dr. Dabber. Excess.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. I can gift.
Dr. Dabber, come on, man. The homie. Big things right here. Jason.
Sean, Your Highness LA.
Oh yeah. Okay,
yeah.
Sean.
Good
Yeah. Yeah,
I mean,
man.
he was
solid.
running like Maui Wowie and like Tangerine Dream and Green Crack back then. And I mean,
Tangerine
still
Dream.
like the best Green Crack I've ever had, and probably the best Maui I've ever had. Like he really crushed it with those.
Oh, that
They
says a
were
lot,
great.
bro. That says a lot. It was funny amongst growers. Daddy's Pipes was known as a spot where, like, if you want your weed to get in porn star and like some actors' hands, but mostly like porn star hands, you put it in Daddy's Pipes.
Oh,
like
yeah.
you try to get, like, it was just funny that was like, there were certain shops that were known like, oh, these people, like this is where you put your product when you want to appeal to, you know, actors or like, you know,
Yeah,
Buds and
we had
Roses
a lot of
was one of
musicians
those.
and a lot of
Yes.
actors, and yeah, definitely some actresses and actors from
Yeah.
that scene too.
It was sick. It was cool because you're able to be like, as a grower, you've been so anonymous for so long. It's dope to be able to work with people where you're like, oh, my product's getting smoked by like musicians
Yeah.
now. Oh, dope. And then they start to say like, yeah, this was their favorite shit that they bought, you know, and that's the
Yeah.
coolest. One of my favorite things about California is being able to connect with other artists, right? Like your passion brought you from Arkansas here, and now you've literally put your 20,000 hours in
Yeah.
and perfected your craft and learned it like very few people know, you know, like even outside pharmaceutical companies would consult with someone like you to come up with like, how are you doing it now? And then where can we come in? Right. It's like, you've really set a bar with like Nature's Lab. And so you start to win with all these strains, right? Like what was that for? Spacewalker.
Yeah, Spacewalker.
You're
and
known for
in-house. Yeah.
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 Which is a
It's an OG. Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
Skywalker OG, back cross with a Skywalker OG. And then again, because I'm from Arkansas and we're afraid of getting sued about anything, I was like, I'm going to do that. And then I'm going to call it something far away from Skywalker because I'm not trying to get sued by Disney, you know?
smart.
So, you know, came up with Spacewalker and that name stuck. Yeah. And then honestly, back then I wasn't Nature's Lab. I was MP Design.
Okay.
The Daddy's Pipes, they were like, you need a name that has this concentrates or extracts. And so that's when we entered the high times. Put one entry under Nature's, one under MP Design, the one from Nature's one. So I was like, well, guess we're Nature's Lab now.
Really?
Yeah.
And how'd you come up with Nature's Lab? You sitting there smoking, just trying to like bouncing the idea around, or what inspired that?
I think everybody kept throwing like Crumble King or like Best Something or out there. And I was like, I do not want a name that says like self-proclaimed you're awesome. So it was just like, I don't know,
Yeah.
Nature's Lab popped in my head and then just kind of, you know, worked. I think Nature's Lab is like another brand of something too, but you know, you throw extracts on it and we're good.
Yeah, it is funny like that, right? You're like,
Yeah.
I'll apply to the trademark all together, all the words together, please.
Yeah, I got the trademark like forever ago too.
Yeah.
Like across the board. So it's like the category we're in was like for like terpenes and things like that, like, you know, fragrance, and just try to do anything lab that I could, you know, so we could kind of stomp out any of that stuff. So
Yeah, it's
yay,
great.
trademarks.
It's important. People underestimate how important that is to make sure your trademark and all your business stuff's in line. And like, especially, I want to get into what you're up to now, but as you start to win awards and you're starting to move through, who are some of the people you're stoked on like getting your extracts to at that time? Like you're starting to run into like, cause I know you're around some big names, like you don't have to name drop, but who was like wow, this is cool. This dude's smoking my product right now.
I mean, the cooler ones for me were probably less cool to other people because I'm like a skater motocross guy. So it's like, getting into like hands of like pro skaters was like, oh, this is pretty fucking cool.
That is cool.
But like, we definitely had like a couple like celebrity drops that were just kind of like, no shit, like rappers or like, some of the like metal dudes. Like I worked with, I did give some like stuff to like Shava from System of a Down a long time ago. Like got to give him some hash. And then like now I help run 22 Red's hash division. So it's like, that was really cool. Like 14-year-old me still beyond stoked about that. Getting to work with that, getting to work with Be Real, like that's another one where it's just like would have never got the dream of like getting to run their hash, but like their hash comes out fire. Like Kenji's a great grower.
Yeah.
I mean,
OG,
super lucky to get to work with a guy like that.
And Be Real's an OG. It's crazy to me that
super down to earth too.
Their story, like Kenji's story with Be Real and all these guys that kind of grew up together and like how integral Be Real was in actually having like handling the plant and like making sure like it's crazy.
Like celebrities aren't like that a lot of times. So to see someone that hands on,
just based on his rap career, he like helped cannabis 20-fold.
Definitely.
And then you flip it to like, no, this dude loves it enough to like, he had like people say like, no, I got the OG from Be Real. It's like, no, they mean from Be Real. It's crazy. Yeah. It's like, what? Yeah, it was Kenji was one of the guys that when I moved to California and I met him, I had heard about him for like 10 years and I didn't know what he would look like. You don't know, and I'm like thinking like the Karate Kid.
Grower.
This is the Karate Kid. This is Kenji, man. Like I'm about to meet the Karate Kid, And then I finally meet him. I'm like, this dude's just like all the other OGs, cool as shit.
Yeah.
Like most of them that are like really
down to earth.
Yeah.
Super cool. Like you could have a conversation with them for like 10 minutes and feel like you've known him forever.
Yeah.
It's like that says a lot about a person for sure.
When you're extracting at this time and you're starting to collab with brands, what were some of the, like, I know you did some stuff for OG Rascal and them, correct?
Yeah. OG Rascal.
That's huge.
They were huge.
Yeah.
They're still crushing.
Yeah. I remember one of my favorite things was being able to see your collabs and like being able to sample all the different ones. Cause it's like you get to sample everyone's best product from their garden. And at that time when you guys were knocking down full live resin, like, I mean, just.
Yeah. I think the cool thing too was finding growers that didn't work together and like making those crosses, like we had our Spacewalker mixed with the hardcore. And we called it Walk Hard. That was like one of my favorite strains that we ever did. And or like mixing Nameless with like in-house Private Reserve back in the day from like Daddy's, because it's just like those are two different lists of growers that would never have a collab together, but like we could force a collab. By just
awesome.
mixing stuff like that was really cool. Like that, like getting to the point where it was like we could do that and not get yelled at. That was cool. It's oh, you mixed our product together? I'll let it slide. Can I have a gram? Sure. All right, cool.
Cannabis brings everyone together. Yeah. Even if they're beefing or they're not from the same background or from even the same part of the country. I mean, that is cool. Forced collab. I like that.
And back then, like, you're running cured flour and the yields are so much better. So people like had better flour to give you, to offer up that was just like, I want to try this hash.
Dude, I remember extractors buying units at premium and then being like, yeah, we're going to run all this.
Yeah. After that 2015 cup, like we won of the 9 trophies for hash you get, we won 5 of them. So like indica sativa hybrid, like first, second, third, we won 9 of those or 5 of those 9. So on that win. And so after that, like all the prices of flour for us, they went way up. It's like all of a sudden everybody's weed's $4,000, you're like, all right, whatever.
It's funny. Growers talk too. You get a lot of them like, what he give you for that? You get those calls.
Holy shit. Really?
Yeah.
Good to know.
Yeah, exactly. It is funny like that. To flip it for a second, what do you think the couple most important things about an extractor, like doing your, like that you've learned over the years? Like, is there like a couple things that you're like, these are live or die by rules?
I mean, responsible sourcing to me is like a big one, you know, like don't put your name on anything just because it comes out looking pretty. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot to be said about, you know, testing everything, smoking everything. I mean, when I go to like all these different other states and like look at other people's projects and walk through their extraction crew, that's like the first thing that I could tell them they're doing wrong is they're not letting their extraction crew smoke anything.
Oh,
and to like, you know, the Chad and Brads of the world that are like, oh, wow, that sounds really irresponsible to let everybody smoke. It's like, do you want good hash or do you want bad hash? You're going to have a chef not fucking try his food? Like what? That's not how it works. You know, it's like, that's, I think, responsibly sourcing and trying everything that you do, which I think that goes kind of go hand in hand.
Yeah.
I think that's like one of the first quality. The other one, I mean, it's hard to like, it's been like, especially training other extract guys, it's hard to like, find a quality that I'm like, that's the one, like they have to have that. It's just been like, everybody's been so different. But just drive, you know, if they don't have any drive and they don't love weed, and especially now that rosin's a thing, if you don't love hash so much that you're willing to freeze your ass off in a 30 degree to 40 degree room all day, this is not for you, you know. But if you're willing to do that, you know, then you're good.
Bro. And when you say that, for people that don't know what it's like making solventless, like, you're talking about literally working out of a freezer.
Yeah. Yeah. Unless you have some sort of like machine setup, which in case you still have to go sage it. But if you're hand washing, yeah, you're freezing, you know, for a while there. So you dress warm, you dress dry, you know, and you know, obviously you get better at your craft. You don't have to dress as dry, but you definitely dress warm.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm the guy in flannel and a pair of like jeans in there. That's, you know, I'm used to it now, but before, yeah, it was definitely pretty brutal for a while there.
Bro,
You know?
it's crazy for me to look at, you know, for 8 to 10 hours, people in like layered clothing, and they're like got their faces showing, gloves on, everything, just in there all day. And that's what they do, you know, 5 to 7 days a week.
Yeah. And then they walk outside and it's, you know, 90 degrees. It's like, that's how you get sick, you know, like, so props to all those guys. Cause that's not an easy task for sure.
No, not at all. And like most of the guys I know, when I go in there, it's like, yeah, it reminds me of like when I was a busboy going in to change the kegs out.
Yeah.
And then you'd be like counting down sometimes, like, oh, you know, it's like that. It's crazy.
Yeah. Anything to distract your brain when you're that cold.
Yeah.
Like sing a song, count to 10, backwards and forwards.
So in this journey, right, of like hash making and really like chasing your craft down, where does it go from now? You're prop 215 days, you know, everything's kind of small. We're all kind of like, you know, mom and pop.
I was 400 square feet forever.
Yeah. And then now though, you start to expand state to state, you know, you get your license. Like, how does that go about where you start to transition to like a professional businessman now too, while you're still an extractor?
Well, I got approached by a group in Nevada at one point, and you know, they had me draw out a lab, and that was like, and it wasn't the first time I'd drawn a lab out for like a professional thing. And that was kind of like one of those, it was like right before 2018, you know, like we were all kind of thinking like we all knew what was going to happen, but no one really knew what was going to happen. And, you know, I did a couple other things like here and there, and really it was Green Wolf. They hit me up or Loud Pack rather, hit me up to help out with the facility they had.
That was insane.
And that was like, yeah, that was like a 60,000 square foot lab, you know, just lab. And I think there was like some offices upstairs. I can't remember if that was included in that footage, that square footage, but that was the square footage they gave me. It was like, it's a 60,000 square foot lab. So it's like, holy shit. Okay, this is real. And yeah, I think I dipped out a little earlier into it than I should have. But you know, it was good training in that sense. And then at the same time, that Vegas spot came on. And so then me and my buddy Ross were just sitting there like bouncing back and forth between like those two facilities. And
wow.
And then right about the time that like we turned on like another facility in Oakland, and then we got invited to come back down to Southern California and get a lab up here. So we just dropped everything and got back out to here. And you know, 3 facilities later on a compliance, finally found a home that made sense. You know, it's like that was a racket, but you know, it kind of helped, you know, get some learning in there and like figure out what we were going to do. But, you know, it was like a lot of jumping around. Like at first, you know, it seemed like every business that you went with was like, oh, this is weed, we're going to make millions, you know, and then they didn't. And then I eventually, like, once we finally made it back to California, like, stuff started to kind of normalize. But yeah, then we started getting into all the weird states like Oklahoma, Missouri, like Midwest got strange for sure.
Well, how do you pick the right partners to work with?
Oh man, that's a hard one to say. I mean, because like it seems like every state you end up with like a couple before you get it right, or at least for us, that's what it felt like. Nevada, we're at a Flower One's facility.
Oh, okay, yeah,
that's a big one. I think 45,000 square foot lab over there. That took a couple tries. I think that was our third partner that we finally picked up. It seemed like 3 is our number, like try 3 times in some of these states, it's just, and there's just so many operators in some of these states. So it's hard to track down one. You get word of mouth from somebody. And then by the time you're with them, that person's like, oh, yep, they burned us.
Yeah.
Corporate cannabis is nothing like it was pre 2018, where it was really, you're dealing with salt of the earth guys, like the legacy guys were. And I feel like we all didn't think that as much back then, but like now it's just like, oh no, like we were working with the best people we could have worked with. Couldn't have asked to work with a better group of people, Back
then we were thinking, I wish we had more professional people.
Yeah. And professionals were like, you guys are so unprofessional.
Yes.
And then come to find out we're pretty fucking professional.
Yeah.
And those professionals have no idea what they do with what we're doing. Like, it's just like without a guidance of like an actual like operator, it's like, you guys are lost,
Yeah.
Very few have without just throwing a shitload of money at a wall until something stuck.
Yo, First Smoke family, if you want to know where to get all the most exclusive stuff done for your brand at, smoothtrades.com. Use the code FSOTD and they're going to take care of you. Fast turnarounds, low minimums, and they know what they're doing. High quality products where we get all our stuff done for the podcast at. Grinders, trays, rolling cradles, all types of the new things that are dropping. Go check them out. Tell them the family sent you. They're going to take care of you. Appreciate it.
And that's like anything in business. It's like I always go back to, if you're going to open a restaurant, the one thing, what you don't do is know nothing about restaurants and then just dive into it. Like that, the best thing you could do is get a mentor or learn everything or bring in someone that's their expertise.
Yeah.
You're like, all right, let's figure out something here. Cause it's like so many times in this business, people will put up insane amounts of money.
Oh yeah, ludicrous.
Multi millions of dollars, spend 2 years, 3 years, own the property, buy the company that's producing the cocoa go all out. And then we'll put a part-time worker as the head grower with no brand and be like, we're going to build this from the ground up. And it's like,
and brands don't matter.
Yes. And then start to buy clones from random people and start to learn all the hard lessons from the beginning.
Yeah, that was a fun one. Nevada was like that. When I first got out there, everyone was like, it was a limited license market. It wasn't as like broad as Cali was. So people were like, oh, I don't need a brand. Like I can put any brand here. It's going to sell. It's limited license. And it's like, I think you're crazy. Like people that it might sell, but like, you can't tell me it's going to sell better than someone else who launches a brand that like is a legacy brand that came from Cali, especially back then when there was no other brand. So it wasn't like, oh, I'm a legacy brand from, it's like, now you're Cali.
Yeah, they have a market share, a market base.
Yeah.
They've put out premium product over a while where people know it's reliable.
Yeah.
It's like all people think of it, oh, well, it's just a name and we'll come up with a name. It's like, well, for some brands it might be, but for other brands, they have a legacy already in the market where when they say something, people pay attention.
Yeah.
And then now you team that up with the right operators and the right team and it's sky high,
It's like this person's been making hash for how long? Now they don't know what they're talking about. This person's been growing weed for how long? They don't know what they're talking about. It's like, come on, man. We know that's not true.
Yeah.
Those are the guys that do know what they're talking about. I mean,
and on the flip side, a lot of hash makers and growers aren't great businessmen.
No.
So some can do the full vertical move and handle every aspect of the business. Some need good partners. And like, I'm one of those that I like a good partner. I like to have ideas and have that synergy and one person covers this base and I'm covering that base.
Yeah.
But again,
Cochrane works.
Partnerships are tough. It's the same as like a marriage almost.
Yeah. It's hard to find, especially in a state where you're not going to be living there all the time. It's like, find the right, I've always been really good at finding like a lab lead here and there, like my guys in Nevada crush it. My guy in Florida, they crush it. And my guys here, they're doing great. Like Ross has been, you've met Ross before.
I was about to say, how'd you meet Ross?
He was my neighbor's son. And he just came over one day and, we started hanging out, smoking. And then one day when I was starting the whole hash thing up, which I was doing prior to knowing him, but I was just like, I probably shouldn't show somebody this like right out the bat, you know. Here, I make hash for a living. You always have this hash. How do you have this hash, you know? But then one day when I brought him in, it was just kind of like he started working and grinding, and that was like in 2010 or something like that. So I mean, he's been crushing it ever since.
That's cool, man. That's cool to see you guys still working together.
As we're sitting here, Ross is definitely in the lab making hash right now, you know?
Man, big shout out to you, Ross, bro. Huge shout out to you. I've also met some other great people through you, man. Like, you know, Vic Hash Era, see what he's built now. And like, he's a cool friend of mine, like great guy. Like his girl's awesome. Yeah. And it's like, I've been able to meet like just through you and around you, some really cool people. You keep a good circle of people around you that even after you guys, you know, Prop 215, everyone kind of went different ways on some. Now they've built these huge brands that are respected and have this. It's really cool to see.
Yeah, they're crushing it.
Oh, dude. It's awesome to see, bro, because it all comes from you guys having the same passion.
Yeah, I mean, it's get lucky to get to work with people that have a like mind like that. You know what I mean?
Rare.
And again, when you're asking about qualities, it's like drives a lot of it. He had a lot of drive. Mm-hmm. Not many people do. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So it's good to see all those guys work. I mean, really, between that and like Ross and like I think a couple other people, one of the other guys, Alex from my crew, he runs our Nevada lab.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so it's like really like the Nature's family really is not broken up. You know, they all went off to do really good things. Yeah. So shout out to all of them.
Yeah,
they're all crushing it.
So you get into Nevada. Is Florida like pop and bottle celebration when that happens or what? Because that's a big landmark.
Oh, Florida? Yeah, Florida. That was a big deal for sure. It was kind of unexpected. I was working Oklahoma gig when I got the call about that, and you know, basically it was like a maybe at that time, and so I was like, all right, well, I went ahead and told the Oklahoma people like, hey, if I get a yes on this, like I don't have time to do this, and I'll either do a reduced role or something. But I was like, I'm going to Florida. So Florida said yes, and then we got lucky on timing. And if you go to a Florida Cookies, the only brand that they carry in there is Nature's Lab extracts on the hash side.
Boom.
So that's awesome.
Boom.
Yeah, we're gonna do a Dr. Green Thumb release at some point, and that'll be the next brand out there. But it's pretty much just gonna be us.
That's cool to hear, man.
It's awesome.
Shout out AK from Smokers. AK,
AK's crushing it. Yeah, the Smokers brand out there. Like I said, we're about to do a release of a new strain out there called Latex. We've been pheno hunting. Started with 3,000 seeds.
Wow.
Going through the motions now. So narrowing it down.
So you're in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And you're probably processing as much as you could possibly process.
Oh, yeah. That was a bulk place. You know, like we were visiting farms that were like, we have 500 acres, which I was like, no shit. And they really did have 500 acres. It was a lot.
500 acres.
And it was really pretty fire looking weed the first time I saw it. And then the day I went to go visit, it rained like for a week straight, and it just fucked that place up. And so then it was like, it went from being like, it's all going to be rosin to like, well, BHO.
500 acres. And like, what's crazy about that? So many times on Instagram, I've seen farmers have a AAA run, like AAA outdoor greenhouse run. And then right around week for, when they're, I'd say about 3 weeks early, right before you really want to cut down and get forced to cut down, there's a rainstorm or something happens where it's like, look at this run. Holy shit. You see how big those, wow, look at it's looking like indoor. And then right before harvest, because it's one thing to like, oh, cut it down now. It's like just a little bit premature, but you're like, maybe it'll only rain for the day it's so crazy that what they put up with, and how they have to maneuver out there. It's respectable, bro. Especially with you now being able to extract that much material. What are you learning at that time from that much, movement?
Oh, quality definitely goes down when you're doing those like huge, like bulk runs. Like,
okay.
I feel like when and it's not even so much of like you're running it, it's just like the source material again. It's just like, there's so much of it. It's like, it's not that you're running like 500 pounds and that's why it sucks. It's just the 500 pounds sucks.
Yeah.
Like any other time that I was running like bulk washes of just like mixes of like, one guy was just like, I I did, we messed up and we didn't do a very good job, and I'm not going to have you go through the bag and separate it all by hand. And that shit would come out fire, Didn't matter if it was mixed up or whatever. It's just, it's hard to run 500 pounds from a field and expect it to come out good.
Yeah.
Much less like 500 acres worth of weed from a field and for it to come out like fire.
That's insane. Just a picture of that. It's like, that's got to be insane to walk up on that and just see like, oh, this is what 500 acres of cannabis looks like. Not hemp.
Autoflowers, like that was another one. Like the first time that I saw someone plant those, I had no idea that the water was such a fuck up for them. And so it's same thing, like rained for like 2 weeks straight at one of the facilities that we were watching, and they had something like 44 acres of just autoflower, and if you looked in the field, it looked like every single one of them was a different strain. Just because the plant height was just, the canopy was just the last thing of uniform, just like butchered, wavy ridges everywhere. And it was just like, those are all the same strain. That's like, I couldn't believe it. Like water just fucked up that whole place,
Yeah. I've been like a fan of watching Instagram. It's like a double-edged sword, right? It's like all the hate and the nonsense, there's all that, right? But then on the other side, the amount of spread of information and genetics and seeds is unlike anything. The cannabis industry took a chunk out of Instagram and like operate like it's rare, right? No other platforms like that for cannabis.
No.
Instagram is the connection between everybody, the OGs, the young guys, the people trying to grow with the guys that have been growing for 30 years. It's same with extraction, but I'll never forget the first time I saw someone take a dab. I was in the back of a glass blowing studio in Colorado.
Makes sense.
In 2000 and right around 2009, 10.
Okay.
Right at the end of 2009, beginning of 2010, somewhere right in there. And, I walk into a glass studio and they're doing like a raffle for glass. And I went there with a glass blower. And so I bought raffle tickets thinking like, oh, I'd love to, it's all glass giveaway. And I'm like, I don't blow glass. So I'll just hook the homie up for bringing me because this is sick.
Yeah.
And it's all these famous glass blowers now, right? It's like Adam G, Sweater Kingpin. It's like,
I had a feeling you were going to talk about them.
Yeah. It's all the homies. And like at the time you're just
evergreen.
Yeah. And at the time you're just thinking, this is just cool to be around other artists that are so passionate. Look what they're doing. And like, I would always be like, holy shit, no one gets this. Like we're in this little studio and these guys are creating unbelievable art that should be in a museum.
Yeah.
And like, because it's cannabis related, you're in the back of a parking lot or like you're in the back of a studio after hours when they close,
Yeah.
So they put this whole rig together, and at the end of the night, they have this bell housing swing thing, and there's like 6 of them around it, and then one's holding this, and they're smoking. At the time, it was like honey oil is what they called it, and they're dabbing it. And I remember asking all the people around me, what is that? I've been growing at this time for 8 years, 10 years.
Yeah.
But at that time, I'm like, what are they doing?
Why is it a blowtorch?
Yes. And like you seeing it, and I was hooked. I was like, we gotta. Where do you get this honey oil thing? Yeah. And where do you get that rig? Yeah. It's crazy the phases of extracts and where we are now.
Oh yeah. What
is your favorite thing you're smoking on right now? Like what are some of the things your go-tos?
These days, I think I'm still going to OGs. Like at the event that someone's got some fire OG to run, wash, whatever. And I'll still like it. I still get lucky enough to blast some BHO where it's like, oh, this is some head stash. It's not just some like whatever, like, oh, here, run this trim. It's like, we'll still get some stuff that's some live resin. That's like actually, some fire reminiscent of what we used to do, So it's like, oh, this still get me excited. But I'd say anything chem, I see a lot more chem than anything these days. And I'm still a big, chem and sour fan, as you would guess, going to OG Kush. But I feel, and you're in that same boat
like
probably.
Diesel too, I'm guessing. Yeah,
exactly. The right ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like those are the ones I'm really excited to run, and like Burning Ropes has had a lot of good stuff lately for us.
Great grower.
Kaya's has a lot of really good stuff for us. 3C Farms where we're at's got a lot of like good live resin that we've been able to do. And then we've got to run some of your stuff lately, which has always been that's always exciting.
We want to do some stuff. So we grew some stuff for extracts for rosin.
Yeah,
but like I personally, just off of like, I love a good jar of BHO when it's the right strain, because a lot of times you can get a strain in BHO that I can't get in rosin.
Yeah. Well, the yield's
That's
much
been
better
my biggest
too.
thing too. Is like I miss so many great strains that we were smoking in solvent form that now I don't get anymore. And it's like it doesn't have to be one or the other. It's crazy how CRC killed the market.
Yeah, just
Because I should be able to buy papaya live resin and then also papaya rosin, but then I also should be able to buy Skywalker OG and all these crazy OGs that don't yield in rosin.
Yeah,
On and on, thousands of strains that don't yield in rosin
yeah.
and have also rosin. But the market just is shifted. It's interesting. I guess I'm an old head when it comes to that. Where
And
like
GMO's in that same boat. You know, it's like I remember trying to find GMO. It was like it was available for BHO, it was available for BHO, and then it just dried up.
Mhm.
And it was like, what happened? And then, you know, that's all at that point, it was like all you could find in rosin was GMO.
people realize like,
like,
yo,
okay,
did you see
that
the
one-
yield on this?
Yeah. It actually yielded. Holy shit.
Yeah, now it's about finding the yield and the terp. Like one of my favorite things I'm smoking recently is honey banana.
Oh, yeah. That's been a popular one.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
Like one of my favorite rosins out right now. The honey banana is huge. God, the burning rope is sour diesel.
Sour diesel.
What's some of these
but
other
we've run, this is a mixed fruit batch from Dr. Green Thumb. This one was their lemon cherry gelato.
Oh wow.
And then this one is the latex. It's the new one from Smokers and Me. It's a papaya by Runts.
Oh, these are beautiful, bro. These are you know what it's nice is that
That's the one you should definitely.
we used to only get the fruit, then we got the gas, or we got the gas, then the fruit,
Yeah.
right? And now we're getting both together. It's almost like every couple years we start to add another thing in. So it's like, I want the terps. And it's like, okay, cool. And now I want the potency. So now it's terps and potency. And then they're like, now I want a yield. And so now everyone's hunting down terps, potency, and yield. And then you're like, now we want it to also yield and hash. And you're like, all
Yeah.
right, terps, potency, hash maker,
Unicorn.
yield. Yeah. And so this is what now?
That's one of the ones that we did from our Florida facility. So that one is the papaya by Runts. That's what the pheno is on it. And latex is like the name of that strain. We've got a couple of the different phenos that are like, it smells like a box of latex gloves when you open it.
This is crazy.
And yeah, loud, super loud.
Very unique. I cannot think of any rosin I've ever smelled this. Like very in a unique in a great way. Like
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's
I can
a
tell
winner.
you smoked most of it already, huh? This is one of your go-tos right now?
Yeah, that's one of the go-tos. We also had one that I totally spaced and didn't grab, which is this Skittles by Sunday Driver.
Mm-hmm.
It's I'm sorry, not Sunday Driver. It's Skittles by Papaya.
Oh God.
And we
Bloom
ended up
Seed Co?
no,
Okay.
actually from Forefathers Farms.
Oh, dude, big shout out Jay.
Yeah. Jay.
Oh, another OG,
Another
man.
OG.
Haven't heard of in a while. Like he's been laying low.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, he's about to relaunch. So
Love it, bro.
Yeah.
I was always a big fan of his brand.
Yeah,
I
that
bought
grape
the seeds
grenade.
they did. Yeah.
yeah, we actually have some of that, a grape grenade papaya that we just popped out there too.
I actually have those seeds
And that's
still.
also from him. Yeah.
Yeah, I bought those, and then I think he had a sour tangy or something like that, and he did a breeding project or blood orange.
Yeah, blood orange tangy.
That's
that
what
he
it
did.
was, and I have those seeds still as well.
Those are good ones too.
Yeah, I kept.
Yeah.
I'm a weirdo, bro. I got tons of stuff from
And so
all the OGs.
I want to say that blood orange tangy is what the grape grenade came from too.
Oh, very different.
Yeah.
I didn't know
it was
that.
like a Tahoe OG cross a different OG, and then he crossed out the blood orange tangy, and then that with the super lemon haze.
Yeah,
I just can't remember what the second OG was, but yeah.
Tahoe was a banger.
And that one was the grape grenade, which is just fire. It's like there's no grape in it, but it's like one of the grapiest strains I've ever had.
That is so crazy how the mom and dad can pop out something that's maybe like a non-dominant terp in both that comes out, or just a mix of the two, almost like mixing colors. Where, you know what I'm saying? You do yellow and green and you're like, oh, this turns out to be, and you just go through all this palette. Now, what do you have upcoming now? What are you working on right now?
Right now, we've got a whole bunch of new Kaya stuff coming out on the Cali side. We've got that pineapple strain and a couple other new strains dropping in Florida that are, I just left the Florida facility like 2 days ago. And
yeah, I know. I was like, you're definitely going to make it, bro.
yeah. That and a dead show last night. And made it here and a skate event this morning.
Love it. Yeah, you are all over. You and AK. Yeah.
we were running around a lot.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, just extracting, we started playing with psilocybin extraction. That's been exciting lately. That's like a whole new adventure, out there.
I saw Denver just legalized.
Yeah. Yeah. I spoke at like a thing out in Miami like a couple months ago called Canadelic. That was like a way bigger than it was last year. Like Paul Stamen showed up where it's just like, holy shit. Like we got like the mushroom guru himself here now, like just showing up at events, that are about psilocybin, not, just adaptogenic mushrooms, but yeah, I mean, on the weed side, we've been working a lot with this solventless RSO lately, which is just like everything when we're running through. So instead of having like a full spec, solvent base, we're just taking our 220 all the way down to our 25 micron, melting it down and mixing it together, and had really good results with it.
Wow. So this is a solventless RSO.
Yeah.
So for people that don't know, RSO stands for Rick Simpson oil.
Yeah.
They call it the cure.
Yeah.
Because of, if you haven't seen a really cool documentary on YouTube, it's the Rick Simpson. I think it's Chasing the Cure or some version of that. And it shows Rick and his team basically making their first versions of RSO and then helping cancer patients, and them only using this with some, and then some with using some other chemo or some other forms, but to basically quality of life and getting through cancer treatment. The one that he's like proud of that he shows off in the documentary is someone who only uses this in super high concentrated forms, the traditional RSO.
Yeah.
And then actually cures themselves from cancer with it, which is like so cool. This is the closest thing to the medicinal side of cannabis, in my opinion, where like pharmaceuticals would then step in, not to say in a great way, but this is something
that's what they're interested in.
Yeah.
Along those lines.
And then to have it solventless, I've never heard of that.
Yeah. We have a solventless lab only in Florida by nature of like the way that we designed it and just where we were with timing and everything. So that product worked out just best. And plus, honestly, I've had better results on that than I have with solvent, and it's a thinner oil. It's not so like dark. You can see through it still, but it's still full spectrum.
People feel more comfortable just knowing, even if there is no residual butane or propane or whatever the extract is, people just feel better about knowing it's solventless.
Yeah.
There's 100% something with that.
The first time I entered High Times, I brought like this chem diesel I got from Daddy's Pipes. I ran some of that, brought it in there, drop it off to the High Times rep, and he's like, "Man, is this solventless?" And I was like, "I hope so. I mean, I pulled out all the butane, He didn't think it was as funny as I did, but it's like one of those like, it's like solvents. Like, I mean, you're hoping that like you pulled everything out when you make solventless or solvent extracts, it's like, I think I did.
Those are the tough jokes. You laughed and he didn't.
They don't.
Yeah.
But it's like once you start lab testing, it's like, yeah, it's all. So I don't know why it's there's so much things that can happen with water too, with like mold and like mildew that like you really would never have an issue with solvent.
Yeah.
So there's like, it's like kind of double edged, like depending on what kind of extraction you're doing, you know what I mean? Like
I like both.
But yeah, everyone has that connotation of like, oh yeah, solvent. Oh, it's going to have something left in it. Of course.
Must.
Why wouldn't it?
And then you flip side on some solventless, and it like what you say. I love where you say true to the source, because when you bring up these problems or problematic things that could happen, a lot of it is, where's this flower from? Is it clean flower? And then properly, like, it's been cool to hear from the solventless guys about cleaning their bags every run, right? Soaking them in alcohol, whatever it is, right? That they're cleaning solution. Like a lot of them will soak them in alcohol, clean the bags, all this stuff. Like the proper steps are being taken. And then I've been into some labs where I'm like, this is the cleanest lab I've ever. I mean, you could eat off the floor in here, and it's like everything's sealed and the alarms are on the walls and stuff to be proud of. Where like both sides, if you've seen it happening, it's all impressive.
Oh yeah.
And the product coming out on both can be so superior and so different, because one of the things that I'm sure you missed too is you had 100 different growers and 75 different strains.
Yeah.
Now it's 100 different growers, 20 strains.
Yeah.
That's changed a lot. The market has changed a lot.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Before it was like you'd have like an abundance of Blue Dream or like Bubba Kush and maybe some Gorilla Glue, and that's what people were bitching about. But like, you also had 18, 20 different strains of OG. No one complained about that. you know? It's like it was different back then, you know, and then finding sativas and just an extra flavor was like, oh, cool, you know, as long as it wasn't Jack, because it seemed like that was the one that everybody had for a while there. I miss train wreck. No, it's Jack.
Yeah. I miss the DNA collabs. Man, we were getting some phenomenal product coming out of DNA genetics.
Yeah, that greenhouse that they had was crushing it. Shout out to Crockett and DNA. Bro. Those guys were doing great. Yeah, it's like strawberry banana, Miss USA, Tangy, lemon skunk. I mean, I guess lemon skunk, Tangy, and strawberry banana were like, that was like the beginning of like that just really kicking ass, like fruit flavors, you know.
Some of their flavors coming out at that time that was like consistent on the market, and you were seeing 3 or 4 different extractors putting their spin on it.
Yeah.
That was one of my favorite times.
Yeah.
Just because it was cool. It was like there was so much collaboration and love in the community. Like there was, and everyone says, well, there was more money at the time and things weren't as tight. And so, yeah, there was more love. But it was cool to see, like when we moved to Cali, that was one of the coolest things I thought. I was like, wow, I get to meet operators, owners, and then you take your passion and we cross it with my passion. And now we come up with something that we both have never done before.
Yeah.
Here's this, you know, and then you start to get like, do 80% Dirty Sprite and 20% Skywalker, do that, you know, and
that's where it started to get real fun.
Yeah. For any advice for like young guys that love the extraction game, either on the solvent or solventless side, like advice that they want to get involved or they want to get legal, like just any advice.
I mean, if you're trying to get involved, I mean, honestly, your best shot's probably just jumping on Indeed and digging deep to try to find the things. If you're trying to learn, I mean, I started with AD Gold's book called Cannabis Alchemy. It's like written in the 50s. That's honestly probably the best cannabis book I've ever read. And it's not too hard to find. It's like a pretty cheap book to buy. It's not a very long read either. But you know, look at that. There's a lot of good teachers out there now doing classes. Mila is definitely one to look at. I mean, I got lucky enough to take a class from her at Dougie's house, Hitman Dougie's house one day years ago. She's got a lot of books and a lot of stuff out there, a lot of literature. Frenchie's got a great website. You could definitely dive deep on that. I mean, there's so many resources now compared to like when we learned how to, you know, when I was learning how, it's just like there's so many people you could ask. But you know, feel free to reach out to us too. You know, I've definitely done some classes for some people. You know, we've definitely trained a lot of guys out there too. Young kids got a lot of options now. I mean, I think Maryland University is even opening a class.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very cool.
I heard they're starting to do stuff at Texas A&M too, oddly enough, even though you can't go buy weed yet out there, but you can, you know, learn about it now in school.
Texas is the hidden state. This keeps coming up. Texas is the spot that consumes so much cannabis and loves the cannabis industry and fire and smoking. And they're like one of the only states on the list of First Smoke listeners, right? When we look at like our
demographics.
Yes. It's like California, Texas, and then it breaks down to a bunch of other places all over, like New York, Florida, Germany, Spain. And then it goes, but it's, of all the places, that's the one state that always pops up in the top 10 places for First Smoke, for a bunch of stuff. That's not legal. That's like, has no, like, you know, they're not known for like, oh, they got a ton of growers. They've been doing this for 20 years. You know, everyone's still way underground there.
Yeah.
And they have a massive like weed smoking community, like huge.
Oh yeah.
Very cool.
A lot of them out there.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I didn't know, I wouldn't have expected them to be number 2 on your demographic, but I mean, it makes sense.
We were surprised, and it was very cool to see because, you know, every other state has some type of program for legalization at this point. And that was the only one was like, oh, they're just now. Wow.
Their colleges are getting involved. I mean, they're going about it in a right way, I guess, now that they're starting to. But yeah, it took them way longer than it should have. And they have a huge interest in it.
Yeah, very neat. So young people, like, reach out to the guys that are OGs. I mean, most of us and most of the guys are pretty easygoing. And as long as you're hardworking and you're focused, you can work your way in the door. It doesn't take more than just that.
Nah. And like I said, there's tons of like really good guys that travel and do classes.
Yeah.
Like Nick T's out there doing classes. Like, you know, that's a great source. I mean, like it's crazy. Like, cause before it was like, who are you going to learn from? It's like, no one, no one wants to teach you.
And no one wants to give you product to try on.
Yeah. Coming in really early, I definitely got lucky on that one. Like just being able to kind of like learn as I go. And we had all of the material from every guy and that we were working with that was willing to just be like, run it all, get better.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's the way, man. And how do they find you on Instagram? Or how do they hit you up, connect with you, whatever?
Well, our Instagram for Nature's Lab has been deleted about 1 million times. So it's natures_lab_extracts. Be careful. There's like 6 knockoffs right now. And then mine's that_natures_guy. Either way, I'm pretty easy to get a hold of. I respond back.
Yeah. And your products in all the cookie stores in
Florida. So in Florida, we're vertical. I'm the vice president of extraction out at Cookies, Florida. So for TRP. So all of our stuff out in Florida is only at cookie stores. And then in Nevada, we're available at cookie stores and Hardin and a few other spots. And then in Cali, same thing. A lot of the cookie stores, a couple lemonades, anywhere else that wants to house us. Shout out, give us a shout. We'd love to be in your shop, as long as you're a hash shop. That's really the hardest thing now too, is before every store sold hash. And now it's like a store might stock it, but it might not actually sell through. And the last thing I want to do is give somebody a bunch of hash that's going to sit there. And then when someone does come in and buy it, they're like, wow, it's like 6 months old and it's been sitting here and I don't want that. Or maybe they didn't put it in the fridge or freezer and it, oxidized like crazy. It's hard to find the right shops these days. We'll make sure they're actually hash shops.
That's a great point, man. That makes me realize too. And now you're spending at some shops, $60 for a half gram or plus. And so it is nice to have that option.
Makes, it's bad for the whole supply chain too. Cause then it's like at a certain point, like when do you hit up a shop if they aren't pushing through your product and they're not pushing through your product, but your shit's there. Someone's going to buy it and get a misrepresentation if you don't, so it's like, there's definitely, knowing the shops that you're selling to. Cause that's one of those things would always be afraid of with a new shop is like, they want to buy it, cause they see it hyped up on Instagram or online or something. Someone's telling them it's the best thing. And it's like, yeah, but your shop doesn't sell hash. Like that's not going to drive the customers to you if your customers don't buy hash.
Know your customer, whether you're the dispensary or the hash maker or anybody in that line of sales. That's interesting, man. That's the market's so crazy, and like sitting with you, we can sit here for 3-4 hours. I already know smoking hash and trying. Shout out Kenji. Anyone you gonna give a shout out? OGs along the way.
I mean, definitely Dr. Green Thumb did a lot for us. DNA did a lot for us. We loved working with you guys back in the day too. That was a big one for us. I mean.
We need to continue that now.
For sure. Man, there are so many that we had ran back then. There was a guy, Iceman, that did that Chem Diesel at Daddy's. I really wish he was around. Don't know what happened to you, but you were an OG for sure. AK, he's been crushing it ever since we started working with him. Trying to think, man, there's so many more that I should be saying.
Shout out to Ross.
Oh yeah, Ross has been crushing it.
Yeah.
My boy Cody out in Florida, he's been doing great. The whole crew in Nevada, James and Alex and all those cats, Matt, they're crushing it. We're just about to do a big launch of rosin out in Nevada, so that'll be a really, really fun one to do. I promise one day I'll release a vape pen. Rosin pens, man.
It's like the BHO. There's that.
It's hard to find.
Yeah. Now it's good to see rosin pens coming out, though. I love a good rosin.
I love
pen.
rosin pens. Ooh. Love me some rosin pens. Just defects and stuff like that. I've always wanted to do one. I don't want our customer base to have to deal with returns and shit like that. It's like someone buys a jar of hash, they're like, "This is fire." Someone buys a pen, it's like it's not you even at that point. It's like your manufacturer. So. But we're working on a proprietary pen, so hopefully we'll have that out sometime this year.
That's the biggest thing right now in hash pens is finding the right pen.
Yeah.
I got given a phenomenal hash pen the other night and it's broke already. It's default. And I'm like looking at the hash in it and I'm like, oh, that's so sad.
I know.
Look at that. It looks so good.
You almost want to, grab the hammer.
Yeah. Crack it open and take a dab out of it.
Yeah, right. Pull the syringe, something, Yeah, it sucks.
Yeah. So, man, it's been our pleasure, man. First smoke of the day, Nature's Lab Extracts, OG in the game, Marcus, one of the coolest hash makers to reach out, have a conversation with. You show up to events.
Yeah.
So someone to pop up, say what up to. One of the most knowledgeable extractors I've been around, from solventless to solvent to RSO to solventless RSO, like
To unfortunately CO2 and unfortunately
CO2.
distillate.
But you take a scientific approach, and it's very cool because the conversations a grower can have with you, the knowledge just is furthered so fast. You know, I get to talk to guys like you, and I know exactly how to tailor my grow to making sure that the extracts come out the right way, or we work together on, okay, this came out like this, take it further. You know, or we just did a garlic cocktail run, and we realized quickly that the longer you go, the more orange it gets. The shorter you go, the more chemi it is. So just like little things, but working with extractors, man.
Nuances and shit. Yeah.
But shout out to you, bro. First smoke of the day. Hit the site, fsotd.com. Don't slack. We have merch. We have all the homies we have episodes with. We have a bunch of different tiers, and we drop all these episodes like a month plus early, right? And we have all the stuff. Like after we finish this, we record some extra stuff with you. We hang out. We'll take some dabs. We'll talk a little further off camera. But that's on off the mic, and that's also on the website. But shout out to everyone at First Smoke. Like Pat Gods would say, peace out. Nature's Lab.
Thanks for having me.